Your home for our Atlanta Falcons, Hawks, and Atlanta United. Your teams play here. Sports Radio 92.9, The Game.
We are also looking forward to talking to the voice of our Atlanta Falcons, Wes Durham, as he joins us right now on the waitforward.com hotline. And Wes, this thing with the Falcons last week, mistakes, right? But everything's correctable. And that's where my head is at right now as I went back and watched everything and said, okay, bad mistake, clock management mistake. But everything's fixable that went wrong last week.
It feels that way, doesn't it? The unforced errors, the stuff you did, like, procedure calls, things like that. You also kind of found yourself in a spot where you found a similar spot maybe earlier in the year against teams that have pretty good fronts. And remember, we talked last Tuesday about, hey, Washington's going to have a good front, right? Ron Payne, Jonathan Allen, those two cats on the end. I mean, they're real football players, and it might be hard to kind of run the ball at times. And so when you have the unforced errors, you're fighting a one-way traffic on trying to run the ball, and then all of a sudden you add the turnovers to it, Carl, it puts you in a tough spot. And think of it like this. Atlanta won a game a week ago where they turned the ball over twice on fumbles, right, against the Texans. They came close and maybe arguably had a chance, but they turned the ball over 3 times, all in the second half, and still had the ball in a chance and still couldn't pull it out. So, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. But I do agree there is this thought that, hey, look, now all of a sudden you're 3-3 after 6, and you're getting ready to go back into the division, and you're playing a team that also has had some ups and downs a little bit. But for clarity's sake, Atlanta needs to go take care of this one because it's a road game, it's a division game, and it's also one that I think, as we say, sometimes counts more than just one.
It is our man, Wes Durham, guys. He'll have the call with Archam down in Tampa. And, these are all winnable games. That's what made it so frustrating, Wes. I mean, I know they got some name brands on the defensive line, but our defense statistically is one of the best in the league.
Yep.
And they kept you in it. They turned them over, 3 and outs, and you just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think they're going to be growing pains here. I think there's a lot of scrutiny about Desmond. And, look, I get that. But at the same time, too, I think you've got to take a collaborative approach to where he's going and the growth plate and things of that nature. And I think you're going to see, scenarios where if you have a hard time running the ball, you're going to laugh when I do this, Mike. I went back 15 years this week kind of documenting how many times Matt Ryan threw the ball in his rookie year when Atlanta struggled, right? And when the number gets to be the number, and last week that number was 47, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't really want a number that high. And I remember Mike Smith saying to me, remember Ryan beat Detroit in that first game of his rookie year and, obviously threw the ball vertically a couple times, but Michael Turner ran for days. And then as the year wore on, there were sequences, and I'm using Ryan as the example here because it's a convenient one to our fan base, but there were times when Matt threw the ball 35 or 40 times and Atlanta lost the game.
Yeah. And
that's because people were stacking up on the run. Well, similarly, I think that's some of this here. When you cannot run the ball and you have to ask Desmond to put it up, until proven otherwise, that's a consequential process. And I think he's the kind of guy that learns from everything. He's got a body of work collegiately to say that. And I think he's the kind of guy, as I said last week, that's wired to win. So I know it means something to him to get it right. And I'm kind of banking on that a little bit as we move through this season for sure.
We're talking with Wes Durham, the voice of our Atlanta Falcons, guys. We'll talk some college football with him as well, as it's another big week in the college football world. But as we talk about the Falcons turning the page to Tampa, Wes, I said, these games now, I'm looking at next week specifically, these are the games that are going to define the season because this division is still winnable. And Tampa's coming off of an L. They weren't good offensively last week against the Lions. But I think this game, from an importance standpoint, they're all important, but this one has a little bit more because of the division rivalry that's involved.
Absolutely. Carl, let me lay something else on you that's not being talked about much. Atlanta's got 11 games left, right, in the regular season. They only got 4 at home. They burned half the home schedule already. That's the other thing and look, I don't have to advertise this. If you follow this team, the road, and Arthur Smith talked about it last week, but because it was a home game, it went by the board, right? Mm-hmm. But Atlanta's lost 8 straight on the road and 11 of their last 13. Last road win for this team was in Seattle last year following that double West Coast trip.
Wow. That's the thing.
And that's the part where I'm telling you, you got 4 home games left. You have 3 division games, right? Well, 2 division games. You have the Bucks and you have the Saints, and you play the Vikings and you play the Colts. And that's it. That's it for the home schedule when you think about it. So you have to take advantage of games like Sunday and then like going to Arizona and places like that. That's where and you're exactly right. When we start down this piece of the schedule, Atlanta has to be good. You're playing Tampa this week. You're going to Tennessee the following week. After that, here come the Vikings, who get the 49ers next Monday night, so everybody can do a scout on them. Right? And, you're playing a team this week that's going to turn around and play on Thursday night the following week in Tampa. Tampa's going to turn around and play the Bills on Thursday night, I think. So, you're getting a team that you need to take advantage of these games. And you're right. You still have it in front of you. And I think that's really important to note, because you've played some really good football. And let's be honest, Mike, you and Carl know this both. We're looking at one of Atlanta's best defensive units of the last decade through the first 6 games. And I think that's an awfully encouraging starting point for where Arthur Smith wants to go, certainly with what they're going to do offensively.
You recognize the pipes. Wes Durham with us. He and Arch have the call from Tampa right here at 92.9 The Game. We'll be out at Flowery Branch tomorrow. So one of the questions we're going to ask Coach Wes is, when you got 40 seconds to get the playoff, that this is something that we've not expected I don't expect to see, is a lack of poise, I thought, from the decision-making process. Now, you're not helping a quarterback because they only got 2 or 3 seconds before he can snap in the ball. And that to me, that's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and I think you also have to be mindful of it in your systems and checks every week, too. And without having been out there to see exactly how their platforms are built, that communication part is awfully important. And, as he indicated, and I think rightly so, he said, look, we got to get better at that. It was a mistake that developed and we weren't expecting it, and, got to handle it better. And I think he's well aware of what it is and how they can correct it. And, quite frankly, I hope they're one and done with it. Right. And I think he thinks that is possible. And that's all I need to hear from the coach is, hey, look, we identified what it was. We know where we made the mistake, and we're going to move on from it. And the key element is what you want to do is instill confidence back with guys who are, obviously going to have to execute the plays. And I think that's the biggest piece of the maturation point for correcting what you didn't do right the week before, be it this or be it something else, Mike, that develops.
Let's talk about the positive, or at least one that made me smile, and that's Calais Campbell. How cool was that to be a part of that call for Calais?
Yeah. He, you know what? Third time was a charm. The cat he had 100 sacks like 3 weeks ago, and the Joker escaped him. No, I don't think you realize until that tweet came out yesterday that listed all the guys he sacked. And I think it's 50 quarterbacks and 100 sacks, right? Mm-hmm. It's a phenomenal list, and it just so happens that T.J. Yates is an assistant coach, and Matt Ryan was broadcasting the game, and he already tracked those cats down. But I think that you think about guys who have impact in this league, and how great is this guy? Because not only is he celebrating 100 sacks, he does it by making charitable contributions in South Florida and in Denver, right? I mean, this is why he is here in many ways. It's for the football, Mike and Carl. But it's also, as Arch likes to talk about, it's also because of this organization's DNA. It's because of what this organization does in the community. And you guys know that's been a part of Mr. Blank's mission from the start, not just before, long before that, long when he was at Home Depot, and then certainly with the acquisition of the Falcons and all the things they do elsewise in this community. But I think Calais is another guy who has come here on a mission to play football, but also to make sure that he understands community contributions. And in my mind, a guy like Warwick Dunn helped set that bar for this team after Arthur bought it. And all these guys are so heavily influenced by the legacy that Warwick Dunn has left in this country through his charitables as well. And I think that's a big piece of Calais. And I was humbled to be a part of it, and hope I didn't screw it up.
No, good call.
It was one of the fun things to witness on Sunday. Real quick, college football. Give me the rundown, man, because we're starting to get to that part of the season where things are going to get interesting. Mike's going down to Tally this weekend. I said this is not going to be an easy game.
Oh, wait a second now.
What?
Hey, Mike, let me go down. Let me tell you, number one, okay, I saw these dudes last Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your daddy's Duke football team, Mike.
Is Riley Leonard healthy?
Well, you think I'm going to tell you if I know.
Well, you're dialed in the ACC, man. You are missing Tobacco Road.
I am dialed in. Yeah, I'm dialed in. Do you think I'm going to tell you? The answer is no. I'm not telling you. Why would I want to give you an advantage?
What am I going to
If I tell you, I might as well tell Jim Henry, Irish Chauffeur, all those people writing for the Tallahassee blogs and
That's
everything
true.
else.
They'll pick it up. They will pick it up.
He's going to play or not.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's going to play or not, but I'll say this. They are a physical football team.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a team coming down there that is your runway to basketball season. This is a real football team, and they are very old on both sides of the ball. They have done incredibly well and intentionally well with certain guys in the transfer portal. And I think you're going to be surprised whether it will certainly enhance Duke's chances if Leonard plays.
Yeah.
But I will say this, defensively, they are very good and impressive. They were impressive last week because they banged around a team that doesn't get banged around much in NC State. And Mike Elko, to me, is just a terrific football coach who waited a long time to be the head coach at a place and kind of knows how it was going to work at Duke, and he's done a hell of a job. It's two really good coaches in the ACC, and obviously Keon Coleman is not of this planet at wide receiver.
Yeah, right in front of us, that catch, right in front of us, man. Holy moly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. He is – and you talk about a transfer portal guy who was intentional, right? Mm-hmm. Keon Coleman was intentional. Jared Verse, intentional. Trey Benson, those guys. I think that's it's a hell of a statement to what Mike's done building the football team in Tallahassee. And it should be a great game. And if Leonard plays, it could be a sensational game. So I'm thrilled that the ACC gets another stage on Saturday night on ABC with this game for sure. And I hope Leonard does play, by the way.
Yeah, it's good for college football. Where are you at, by the way, this weekend?
Oh, I got this little game with Clemson and Miami Saturday night at 8 o'clock on ACC Network. And
hey, I'm going to say this, and you don't have to respond. Miami, their mental got screwed up with that Georgia Tech game. It just did. I mean, you saw how they played this last weekend. I mean, I just don't know if they get over that. I just don't.
Carl, I will tell you this. I don't care how good you are in this world, and we've just talked about the Falcons being -5 takeaway giveaway, right, in the last 2 weeks. Miami is -7 takeaway giveaway in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, killer.
We saw the stat that
can't win games doing it.
Cristobal hadn't won an ACC home game yet, which is crazy. I saw that stat earlier today too, Wes. So there's some.
I tell you what, Mike, you want to go down and do the broadcast? You're more than happy to.
Hey man, we got to run. Good stuff, Wes Durham. Appreciate you, man. The voice of our Atlanta Falcons.
Be well, fellas.
All right.